Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Medical Monday and a brand new episode of Should You Take That Case? The goal of our show, as always, is to be a resource for legal professionals who pursue medically related cases by sharing their experiences and insights as defense or plaintiff attorneys. I'm your host, Lisa Wade, legal nurse consultant and owner of Wade Nurse Consultants. Think of us when you have a ton of medical records you need to translate it into human understandable language. I'm the owner of Wade Nurse Consultants, but I am also the creator of the Attorney Medical Record Resource Group. That's where we get all of our terrific attorney guests. That's where they all come from. We use this as an opportunity to get to know each other. And we're doing that today with Jeffrey Gross. And we'll do that in just a few moments. But first, we're going to scoot over to the comment section, see if anybody is visiting us live today. Hello. If you're catching us on the replay, hello again. If you are a lawyer, put an L in that comments box and say hello. Let us know you're here. If you're a paralegal, put a P in that box. But if you are part of a wonderful group, which I love, Women Owned Law, put a W in that chat so we can see you and say hello. Women Owned Law, it is a groundbreaking group created to connect and advance women legal entrepreneurs. So come on over to womenownedlaw.org, take a peek, and see if it's a group you'd like to be a part of. Now, I am going to introduce our guest for today, Jeffrey S. Gross, Esquire. Mr. Gross is a partner with the Philadelphia law firm Gross and Kinney LLP. He concentrates his practice in workers' compensation litigation and has been representing injured workers for 30 years. Mr. Gross was awarded the Martha Hampton Award in 2003 in recognition of his strong advocacy and compassion for injured workers, as well as his professional and community service. He is also a board member of Kids Chance of PA, which provides scholarship grants for college and vocational education to children of parents killed or injured in work related accidents. Mr. Gross received his JD from the Dickinson School of Law and his MS from Muhlenberg. I apologize, Muhlenberg College. Mr. Gross is also an FAA licensed pilot. And now I'm going to bring to you Jeffrey Gross. There you are. Hi, Jeff.
Hello. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm quite well, thank you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me on your show. That's very nice of you.
Well, listen, we're going to dive into all of that information you have about dealing with medical records in your cases, all those issues that come up. But first, we want to hear all about you. Tell us more about how you got into this area of law, what you enjoy about it, and what you enjoy in other parts of your life. Uh-oh. Oh, oh, did you hear us, Jeff?
I got you.
Okay,
So,
okay. All right, go for it.
all right. I got involved in the law because of my grandfather. When I was a young child, my grandfather was my hero in my life. He was my pup up. We did all kinds of things together. But he had a really, really interesting background. He was an assembly line worker for a bread manufacturing company called Bond Bread in Philadelphia
I
for
know
40
that.
years. You know Bond Bread?
I know bond bread. I ate bond bread.
Well, one day in the 1950s, a woman, back then, all women had long hair, by the way. A
Oh well.
woman, right? A woman had been working on the assembly line and she did not have her hairnet on. And there was a sign on the wall that said, hairnets must be worn. And unfortunately for her, her hair got caught up in the assembly line process.
Oh my.
And the process just kind of twirled up her hair and pulled her scalp right off.
Oh dear.
And it was horrible. And my grandfather was there and witnessed the whole thing, stopped the machines, ran down, untangled her scalp, which was off of her head, with her hair, picked her up. She bled all over his shirt. He ran her up to his car, put her in his car, and drove her to Albert Einstein Medical Center in Philly and walked into the emergency room. Help, help. They grabbed her. They took care of her. 5 hours later, after having sewn her scalp back on, he had brought her a teddy bear and waited with his bloody shirt the entire time. Went back to the plant and said, "We really need to help this woman. She was really badly injured on the line today." And the response was, "Absolutely not. We're not going to help this woman. She wasn't wearing a hairnet." And they refused to help her. And that was that story. But when I was in law
Mhm.
school, my grandfather said to me, "You can do anything you want to do. You can work for large companies. You could do tax accounting, legal tax stuff. You could do contracts, but you should stick up for the little guy. The little guy is the one that needs your help." And he told me this story. And I said, "Wow, that's horrible." And that stuck in the back of my head. And I started working for a law firm doing all kinds of different things. And I was tasked with handling a workers' compensation claim. Now, I knew nothing about workers' compensation other than if you're hurt at work, you're entitled to workers' compensation. But I really didn't know the particulars. And so I took the statute, there are 3 big volumes of it, home with me over the weekend, and I learned the entire thing. And I said, "I'm ready." And on Monday morning, I was greeted with a man who unfortunately was driving a tractor trailer on Route 80 going from Golden, Colorado to New York City, and he lived in Cheltenham. But he was driving an over-the-road tractor trailer, and when he was on Route 80, he must have fallen asleep at the wheel because he was trying to make it through in one fell swoop so he would get his bonus because they incentivize these truck drivers to
Mm.
get there in as quickly as possible time without any sleeping or without any breaks or little or few breaks. And so he fell asleep at the wheel, went over an embankment, and ruined the payload and was significantly injured. Needed to be airlifted to Penn, where he had emergency surgery.
Mm.
By the time I got to him, they had already denied his claim and said he violated a positive work order, meaning that he can't sleep on the job. And here he was sleeping on the job. And I
Mm.
said, "Well, wait, that does not sound right." And of course, Pennsylvania's Workers' Compensation Act is a no-fault act. And I immediately thought about my grandfather told me. He had told me about this poor woman that got her scalp ripped off and they wouldn't help her. And in the 1950s, she wasn't about to get a lawyer that was going to help her. And she got basically pushed under the rug, and that was the end of her as far as I knew. And I said, "Well, I'm not going to let that happen to this guy." And so with all of my might, I knew what I knew from the weekend, and I kept brushing up on it in terms of what I needed to know for the law, and I filed my petition. I litigated the entire case. When I got into court with this man in front of the judge, after about 15, 20 minutes on direct, the judge kind of figured out what the defense was, i.e., he fell asleep at the wheel, but it's not really a defense. He dismissed everybody in the courtroom and yelled at the other attorney and said, "What's wrong with you and your client? This claim needs to get picked up." And the other attorney said, "I don't have the authority to pick this claim up." And he said, "Mr. Gross, you keep litigating this case and we'll see what happens at the end." Well, sure enough, about 10 months went by. We got a decision. and I won, hands down, sun, moon, stars, everything. I was so
Mm-hmm.
happy, but more importantly, my client and his family were so relieved and happy that
Mm-hmm.
they came to me with his daughter made all these cookies and baked goods, and I said, this is what I want to do. And that is what got me into doing what I do today. And so I dedicated my entire practice to the field of workers' compensation, representing claimants. And I do this day in and day out. I have 4 lawyers in my firm and a bunch of support staff, and we handle the work on behalf of what my grandfather would call the little guy. And we take
Mm-hmm.
care of these people, and it's very, very rewarding personally to me. And it's basically out of respect to my grandfather that I do it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy that I chose this path, and we'll keep it going. It's been 33
Oh,
years and going.
excellent. Excellent. I know your papa was very proud of you.
He would be, yes. Unfortunately,
Oh,
he passed before I could even get to that point, but
oh,
yeah,
oh. But ah, that is a serious story, and I can understand, how that could lead you to be dedicated to do what you do, and I'm sure your clients appreciate that.
absolutely they do. They're really good people for the most part, and we do everything we do everything we can to help them. I give everybody my cell number, which is a very
Oh.
interesting thing. It's kind of maybe a mistake, but I like it. If you need me and you're one of my clients, you don't have to go through a switchboard. You don't have to go through different channels to get to me, or you can text me, you can email me, you can call me, and I'm there for them 24/7. The only one that really reminds is my wife. But other than that, I'm here for them, so I'm dedicated to them.
Definitely. You sound dedicated, and I know they must really appreciate that.
Yes, I think they do.
Well, I just want to ask, when these cases come up and there's medical issues involved in there, how do you decide what case is a good case to take or not to take, or do you turn down any cases?
Absolutely, we turn down cases. The only reason you turn down a case, and by the way, I don't turn down cases because I think they're too small.
Mm.
I turn down cases because they don't have merit, which
Oh.
is a big difference. Because a lot of firms will have a threshold that if they don't think the case is valued at a certain level, they will not take the case for
Mhm,
economic reasons. But
mhm,
I've learned that the good cases that require little work and produce a lot of profit um, are significant and not, I wouldn't say voluminous, but they exist enough so that it creates an ability for us to take the little guy too. And I don't care if you're making minimum wage and you have an injury, whatever. We take all the cases that have merit to them. We only turn them down if there's absolutely no merit to them.
mhm.
And the name of the show is, would you take the case?
Should you take that case?
Would you take that case? And I value these cases based literally on their merit, because there are ways of taking a small case that doesn't have much value to it and creating enough of a fee generation in order to warrant bringing the claim, because the judges see through all of the BS that the insurance companies put up, and they will award the appropriate fees in the appropriate cases. So I do take all kinds of cases when they have merit. And so
All
one of the clarifications for determining whether to take a workers' compensation case or not is whether you've met all of the burdens of proof that you have in your requirements in order to bring in a claim in the first place. So you have to show an employee-employer relationship. So if you're an independent contractor, no good. But if you are a bona fide employee of an organization and you get injured while in the course and scope of your employment, and as a result of that injury are unable to do the essential functions of your job, and your employer is not really accommodating you in order to get you to a position that you are capable of performing, then you have a good claim. Even if there is a modified or light duty job that your client is capable of performing, it still warrants taking the claim because those are not forever. And we want the client to be able to go back to work or do something else at his or her own schedule and time frame so that they're not pushed by the employer.
Mm-hmm.
And so the answer is yes, we will take any case as long as there's merit to it.
All right. Excellent. Now, when these cases come up that have medical records, medical records can rear their ugly heads in
Yes.
some of these cases. Is there a way or a process or a protocol, a procedure you have for cutting through all of those records to get to the meat of what you need to win your case?
Well, fortunately, I come from a medical background. My father is a radiologist. My sister is a neuroradiologist, and I was this close to being a doctor, but decided don't like it. And so I was able to get an understanding of a lot of medical terms, and I have access to the medical field. So if I run into a real problem, I can always count on them. But I will certainly use my own nurse case managers from time to time to review the records and come up with an understanding, or at least my understanding as to what's going on. And I would certainly use your services for that.
Thank you. And hey, I'm available. So think of me.
Perfect. Absolutely.
All right. Now, when those medical records they come up and they rear their ugly heads, is there anything that you find particularly difficult or annoying or frustrating about them?
Sometimes they're hard to read. And when I say that, I don't mean because of the nomenclature or the terms. Sometimes the handwriting on the emergency room records or the SOAP notes that are in the attending physician's records are just too difficult to read, and they have certain abbreviations or symbols that I can't quite make out. And a lot of times I'll send them to somebody who does have this experience and is in this field, and they'll have the same problem. But there's an issue with communication there. And then there is stuff that I don't know, like hide the ball type stuff. Like I'm looking at a medical record and it flows nicely, but the person who is used to seeing medical records and reviewing them and interpreting them will say to me, there's something missing here. You're missing this, that, and the other thing. Did you know that? And of course I would say no. And that's when a nurse case manager or somebody who handles medical records like you do is invaluable to interpret that. So when they can pick out things that I would otherwise not be able to find, that's an asset that's huge.
Well, definitely. I know a lot of times medical records and summarizing them and reviewing them is about what's not there instead of what's actually there. So,
right.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, you've given some wonderful information and advice for your fellow attorneys. I'm just trying to see if there are any more nuggets of knowledge left for veteran attorneys or newbie attorneys that you have when they are trying to decide if they should take these medically related cases or manage these medical records that come with them.
Not sure what happened. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, now I can. Oh, hey, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, dear. Oh, my. I think we lost Jeff Gross. So, oh, there, he's back.
I apologize. I don't know what happened. It just popped off.
Ta-da. Well, these things happen, live. Hey, Anything can happen, and it did.
Anything can happen, right?
So, any final nuggets of knowledge or advice for other newbie or veteran attorneys that handle cases like you handle?
I would say that people are very proud, and most people do not like to admit when they don't know something. But an area of the law that you may not be familiar with is a very good time to say, I better see if there's somebody else who can review this for me. So there are a lot of personal injury lawyers out there that handle personal injury claims that don't know a lot about workers' compensation, just like a lot of tax attorneys wouldn't know anything about medical malpractice. And so when you are outside of your area of expertise, one of the best things you can do for a client is to call somebody who does know. And so if you are in a situation where you have a client that is injured at work and you don't regularly practice workers' compensation, give me a call because I will be able to help guide you through or take the case as a referral and handle the claim on behalf of your client to a successful conclusion.
All right. Well, that sounds like sometimes referral is the best idea for it to get handled the right way.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Well, now we have come to the point in our show where it's time for a little Q&A. If you're ready for that, Jeff.
Sure.
All right. Well, what's going to happen is this. Anybody out there that's watching us live, please get ready, get your questions together, and get ready to put them in the comments box. And Jeff will answer them right now. Sound like a good idea, Jeff?
Sounds like a great idea.
Excellent. So while everyone's getting their questions together, it's our point in the show where we have a little sponsor break. And that's when I tell you a little bit about Wade Nurse Consultants and what we do as legal nurse consultants. Now, without a review and summary of medical records, it can be harder for you to know if you should take that case. And here at Wade Nurse Consultants, we give you attorneys a 1 to 2 page synopsis and opinion regarding the merits of those medically related cases. Using my 30 plus years of nursing experience, I make quick work of those medical case screenings. So if you're watching this and you have a nurse paralegal on staff, this may not be for you. But if you have a backlog of case screening to get to, or you need clarity on medical issues, and you need to free yourself to focus on your legal strategies, then this is what you do. Right now, here at Wade Nurse Consultants, we are offering a free 20-minute medical record strategy call to help you hone an efficient, timely, and cost-effective routine around your medically related cases. So click on the link that you'll find in the description box of this YouTube channel and schedule a talk with us. Now it's time to get back to our guest, Jeff Gross, and Q&A. So Jeff, let's take a peek. Are there any questions yet? Not yet, Jeff. But
Okay.
we have a way to deal with that. Are you ready to hear it?
I can't wait.
This is what we do. We have put your name and contact information inside the description box of this YouTube channel for people to go in there, take a peek, and communicate with you if they have any questions that they need you to answer or any referrals for workers' comp cases that they think should go to you. Is it all right if they give you a call with that contact information and you address their needs?
Absolutely. Anytime. I welcome that.
Perfect. Well, this works out. It looks like we are at the close of our show. But before we close, I do want to say and ask one quick thing. How exciting is it to be a pilot?
It is very exciting. It's one of the greatest things ever, and it's so exciting that when you land, it's a little depressing.
Oh, no, no.
It's so much fun because you can take your world and make it that much smaller and do more things that you would otherwise not be able to do. For on a moment's notice, I could fly to Martha's Vineyard for lunch. On a moment's notice, I could fly up to Maine and spend a weekend up there without battling traffic because it's right up right up in the sky. And so you can do things that you otherwise would not be able to do. For instance, I've taken cases. I was telling you earlier, I actually took a case in Altoona, Pennsylvania, someplace I would never ever go otherwise, just because they would have no reason to go there. And instead of referring the case out, I took the case, I flew there, I met my client at the Altoona airport, I signed him up and I took care of his case and I won. Not only did I win his case, I won his case and then we settled it years later. And every time there was a hearing, I would fly out there. We had a nice little relationship with my client and his wife and his family. And it's just a nice thing. Things like that you can't do otherwise. So it
Oh,
does make your world smaller and it's a lot of fun. And I love looking at things from a bird's eye view because you get a big picture. I'm a big picture kind of guy, and that's why I leave the small stuff, the details, to a nurse case manager like yourself, who
oh,
can who can
well, it
who
does.
can decipher the medical records.
Yes, yes, and listen, give those records to us. Let us decipher them and use all of that extra time to fly.
Absolutely.
All right, that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Jeff, for coming and spending time with us and letting us learn a little bit more about you and what you do in the law and outside of the law.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh,
It's really been a pleasure and an honor.
wonderful. Thank you, and maybe you'll come again.
Let me know when. Anytime.
It sounds like a good plan. Oh, and before we go on our way out, I just want to remind everyone that's watching live or on the replay to like our show, subscribe to this channel, and if you have any legal nurse consulting questions, email me, Lisa at wadenurseconsultants.com, and catch us next week for a brand new episode at Monday, 5:15 Eastern Standard Time, another new episode of Should You Take That Case? Thanks for coming.